Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs. Hi everybody, welcome to episode 106. You'll never feel 100% ready to go to the next level. In this episode, Tony and I share tons of stories about how we've had these embarrassing moments and sometimes difficult moments when it comes to life and business. But in these moments, we always have learning that in this moment of resistance in the mind, we can always go to the next level. Also, I want to let you guys know this Thursday, I am having a webinar specifically for psychic mediums in business. And we are going to talk all about those amazing questions that everyone has when it comes to living your life on your terms while doing your business. And there's a lot of beliefs and blocks that can come up when it comes to business. So I can't wait to have you there. Hi guys, welcome back. We're so excited that you're here. Today's episode is all about how you're never going to be 100% ready to go to the next level. And we have so much to talk about in this session. So if you're watching this right now, get a piece of paper and start taking notes, or replay it and watch it again and take notes.
So I want to ask you, have you ever went to the next level with whatever it is and you did it and you had this embarrassing moment? You felt nervous and you were like stuttering over your words or whatever it was that you were doing. Think about that. And I'm going to share one of mine right now. So what was it, about a year ago? I did a webinar. It was either a year or a year and a half ago.
A year and a half ago, probably.
I did a webinar, and the webinar was called How an Empath Can Step into Their Light, or Step into Their Power Without Dimming Their Light. And I believe there was like a couple hundred people signed up for it. And some of the people on it I was kind of intimidated by, because they were like high-level people. They were already like either high-level psychic mediums or yoga teachers or whatever it was. So I had all these things going on in my head. I didn't feel 100% ready to teach a webinar about that. But I was an empath that was stepping into my power, and I knew that I had stories inside of me. I knew that I could share part of my journey on this webinar that would be of value to people. So that's why I did it. So I was ready in that sense, but I wasn't ready emotionally in my mind, and it became very clear. I believe, Lindsay, you had an event that night.
Yeah, I wasn't able to be there.
She had to leave, and Lindsay's like my technology person that helps me. I'm like, Lindsay, I need some help here. So what happens? I go to start the webinar and I press record. People start popping on, and then I forget what the exact problem was. I think I couldn't get my screen on, or something happened, and I couldn't figure it out. And I had the light on me like we do now. And all of a sudden I started sweating, and I'm like, what do I do? How do I do this? And I'm feeling all the feelings that you would expect somebody would feel.
And as an empath, you'd feel everyone with the eyes on them.
Oh my goodness, I felt everybody's eyes on me. I actually seen a couple people's eyes where they're like, what's going on here? He's doing a webinar on how an empath could step into their light. And I'm thinking, I'm a light shining bright on me. I'm sweating. Stepping into their power without dimming their light. And I'm thinking about the light shining on me and all these thoughts. Long story short, I tell you that because I ended up doing the webinar, and I did it the best of my ability for that night. And I had people message me saying how it impacted them. Even though I was like, stuttering over my words, sweating, and trying to figure out technology and doing all these things. And look, I'm still here. This is episode 100, and I forget exactly, 106.
Over 105.
I'm still here, and I felt pulled to do that webinar. I was following my instinct, and I just wanted to share that with you because look, you're going to feel pulled to go to the next level, whatever that means to you, and you can't deny that feeling. Just how this cup of coffee is here, I know it's here. I knew I had to do a webinar that night, and I knew I had to do all the things I've been doing. And look, I'm safe. No one killed me. I'm still here. I'm still alive. And not only that, I have so much strength from that experience, from all of the failures that I've had over the years, not only that one, but my entire life. And as you can think about, that's where you build your muscles, your strength. And you don't have to be 100% ready to start that process. And you must be open to failing, so to say. And I don't look at it as failure, but to looking bad and being embarrassed, because look, everybody on that webinar, they were human beings just like me, and I knew they could relate to how I was feeling in that moment. Maybe didn't know it at the moment that time, but looking back, we're all human beings here.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect example of, when you know that you're supposed to do something and you have that in your heart and your gut where you're itching to do it, you know it's supposed to happen, but there's also fear behind it, which can cripple you and stop you from doing it. But luckily you did go for it, because so many people got helped with that webinar and continue to get helped by your work. But this is the thing. Before we even go on further, I do want to say, with that example that Tony just shared, was there a situation that happened to you, whether it was in your business, maybe it was in relationships or in your life, where you knew that you had to do something and you did it, but you were frightened to do it? So share with us in the comments right now. If you have to pause this video, do that. That's the first step. Second of all, there's so many countless stories that we can share that may or may not be relatable to you, but it can trigger something in a reaction and you start to think about it. That's why it's important for us to share the stories. I can think of one story from me when I was first starting out mediumship. There was a couple things going on. There's so many stories, but one thing was I was into mediumship. I was tuning in and communicating with the other side, and I wanted to take a class for mediumship, but I was afraid. I'm like, I don't know if I'm in the right level. I don't really know if I should do it, but you had to apply for the class. It was Lisa Williams's class. And I was also applying for a business class, business school, Marie Forleo's business school at the same time. So Marie Forleo, you could just purchase the program. You don't need to apply. Lisa's, you had to wait to hear back. And I got the notification after I purchased the business school. I got the notification when I applied to Lisa's thing that I got in. And all of a sudden I started to freak out. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if it's the right level. But I chose to do it, and it was the best thing that I could have done. But I remember that feeling inside of me where all of a sudden I froze. And I'm like, wait, something told me to apply then, but now I want to retract what I just did and want to go back in my shell. But it was a thing that completely changed everything in my life. And also, it's something to think about if you are a psychic medium or you're into the spiritual stuff and you're thinking, do I want to stay in the job that I'm in? Like, what's the point of taking a class if I don't know if I'm going to actually do this for work? I think that was a big thing for me. It was like, why am I doing this? My soul's calling me, but I don't know why. Like, what is going to come of this? Because I thought I was going to retire as a teacher. So it's in these pivotal moments of having that urge, that overwhelming feeling in the moment, that you need to trust. Now, it's the second part of that, which comes with when you're rising and you know you're about to take a big leap, all of a sudden you want to freeze and you want to retract what you said. Do you understand that?
That's exactly what happens. And it's just, that's so valuable to understand that, to understand the nature of things and how, like, right before your biggest breakthrough, you're going to feel this. Right before you, even right after, like Lindsay was just saying, you'll make that decision, you'll sign up for their class, you'll create your webinar, you'll create your event, whatever it is, you'll start to transition to a new career. Right after that happens, you'll start to get those feelings of like fear.
Yes.
And it's easy to get caught up in that. And it's easy to get caught up in the overthinking, and then sometimes you'll start to reach out to other people.
That's
and then
what I was just thinking.
They'll plant in different ideas in your mind, and then you start to do this cycle, and before you know it, it's been 10, 20 years of you doing this, and all along you knew what you wanted to do, but you thought that you had to be 100% ready. And we're here to tell you that you'll never feel 100% ready to do anything. Are we telling you to go out and start a course that says how to make $1 million on Facebook if you've never done that before? No, we're not saying that. What we're saying is tune into your soul, and your soul is telling you, do this. And you know if it's your soul or if it's fear, because like I keep saying, this cup of coffee, I know it is here. For the people listening on audio, I have a cup of coffee sitting next to me. I know that it's here. That's how you'll know. You'll know that you'll know that you'll know. But then as soon as you start to follow that, all these different things are going to challenge you, and it could confuse you. And that's why we made this podcast episode too, is so you understand this, so you don't wait a year, 5 years, 10 years to actually follow that inner nudge.
Exactly. And I think what you said is like I forget what you said at the beginning of that statement, but I was thinking of what Marie Forleo says, start before you're ready. And when I heard her say it, I'm like, oh, that sounds good. But actually really living this entrepreneurship journey, yes, you have to start before you're ready. Because I remember when I was thinking of things that I wanted to do, maybe I wanted to, people were coming to me after my intuitive reading and they wanted a mediumship reading. Do you know how scared I was to put up on my website that I offered just mediumship readings, or just intuitive readings were really natural for me, like Reiki and intuitive readings, because that's how I transitioned with it. But I had this fear of performing my mediumship readings. And it wasn't until I took the steps to follow those breadcrumbs and follow my heart, like, okay, let's take this class. Let me invest in this time and energy of doing these things and practicing the readings, where I felt like, you know what? I don't know why, but I'm going to put it up on my website. Like, I'm just going to do it. Even creating my website was a process. I'm like, I have to put myself out there and show myself and say that I'm an expert in this area, where half of me is feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't want to put myself out there. And the other half is I want to impact people and I want them to know that the spirit realm is very much alive and they're not alone. So having those two feelings were really confusing. And if I did check in with more people than I checked in with myself, I wouldn't even be doing this. I'd still be teaching the school system.
For sure. And that's why we always emphasize on all of our podcast episodes. Listen to our podcast episodes. Listen, you could learn from other people, and that's okay. That's actually, I feel like it's so valuable to do that. But listen for insight. And what I mean by that is tune into your own heart and soul. Don't pay so much attention to all of the words that we're saying. Listen to where it's guiding you in your soul, and your soul will tell you.
Yes. And I think now during this pandemic, I'm so sick of the word, but it's a reality of what's happening. People are reevaluating what they want in their life. And maybe if you are working at a job where you are sitting in an office and now all of a sudden you have a chance to work from home and you're like, oh my God, this is like a new world out here. You start to think about, do I really want to go back into that little cage that I'm in? Or maybe you really love it and you're like, I miss it so much. It just confirms that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But it's something to think about and reevaluate and think, what do I want? Now, if you do put it off for next time or later, what's going to happen is naturally the human emotion is when you see people do the things that you want to do, you're going to start to get resentful of those people. You can either go one way or the other. You could think, okay, this is breadcrumbs for me to spot and notice that this is helping me guide me into this pathway, or I'm going to be resentful because I'm not doing that and I wish I could do it better if I was doing it.
Yes, and that's a clue.
Two pathways.
That's a clue right there. I think that's a valuable point you just brought up. That's a clue. If you're watching other people doing things and it's triggering you, that doesn't say something about the other person. That says something about what's in you and what are you holding back on. So if you're getting triggered by people that are putting themselves out there, that are stepping into their power, I want you to ask yourself the question, what am I holding back on? I do this. We're humans. It happens to us. It happens to everybody. We learn to ask that question though. What are we holding back on?
Yeah.
Why did that trigger us? Another thing I want to make this very clear. Think about in school, K to 12 education. You can't go to 5th grade unless you do kindergarten. You can't go to 1st grade unless you do kindergarten. Sometimes you might hit 3rd grade and they're like, this person's a genius, you're gonna skip up. That's called a quantum leap. That happens too, but it only happens once you start to pursue that inner calling. So I want you to think about that. Think about video games. You can't go to level 3 until you do level 1 and level 2. So if you keep putting off following your inner spark, whatever you want to call it, your soul's calling, the higher calling, and you continue to put that off, you're just delaying the process. And what's going to happen is the compound effect is going to start to take over, and before you know it, you're going to be so confused, you're going to be overanalyzing everything.
It's true. That's exact, and I like that example of the video game because it's so visual where you can imagine it. There are no skipping steps. And I think that's one thing that happens is at the beginning of your journey, like you start to, whether you are a medium or you're an entrepreneur of some sort, or you're just living here in life, you could obviously look at different things that are happening in people's lives in the outside of it, like what it looks like, the pretty picture of what's happening, but really truly you don't know. People just don't get given something. And usually, you know that show, what is it? I Won the Lottery. What is that show? Where they'll win the lottery and it's what they do with it after.
Right,
and
where they just lose it. Like the average person, the
average
percentage
person
is they start to lose
that.
it.
Because when you're given something like that and you don't have the tools and you haven't progressed to figure out how to get there, it just can fall away. It doesn't matter how much money you're given. If you're not happy before you get the money's not going to make you happy. And that's a whole nother episode. But I think that we have to go through these levels like Tony was talking about, and there's little baby steps to get there. But sometimes when we're seeing as outside observers, when people are doing well, we think, oh, it just came easy. No, there's actually stuff that's taken place. And I do want to, I'm going to be actually covering some stuff. I have a webinar coming up this Thursday, and it's for psychic medium business owners. So whether you're a business owner now or it's something that you've been delaying and you want to go into that, I'm going to be talking about that. But there's so many holdups that we can put on ourselves, and it's time for us to step up as humans in this world and stop staying at the same stagnant level where you feel like, I feel like my life, I'm stuck in it. You're not stuck in it, but that feeling, it makes sense. It's actually a good thing if you feel stuck.
Absolutely.
And do something with it.
And the thing is, people like just to add to what you were saying, people look at somebody like Les Brown or Gary Vaynerchuk or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or any industry you could think of, people at the top of their game. They look at them and they think, the average person, we know all of you don't think this way, but the average person, they'll think they were just born that way, or they were always good at that. They just have talent. No. When you start to dive into their stories, you start to see somebody like Les Brown, who was in special ed all throughout high school. Somebody looks at somebody like Beyonce and they think, oh, she's just a performer. She's great at what she does, and that's just how it is. They didn't start there. They put in thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of practice to actually show up that way. So I'm saying all that just to say, don't compare somebody's level 20 to your level 2, to your level 1. Like, understand that nobody pops out of the womb and is just great at something. Yeah, we all are given different talents and gifts, and I think life challenges us to figure that out. And that's part of why we make our podcast episodes, is to help guide people into their own selves, to figure out where's your brilliance at. And then once you figure that out, now it's time to do the work. Like, this is like our 106th episode, 107th. Mm-hmm. If we look back to episode 1 and 2,
oh yeah, we had our microphones out.
We had the wires out of our shirt. I bet if we analyzed it more, we'd be like, man, we're not as good as we are now. And we could guarantee say that because we've practiced. This is 100 and some episodes, and when we have 1,000 episodes, it's going to be even different than what this one is. We're going to continue to get better because Lindsay and I, we figured out what our mission is and what we want to spend our time doing. And we spend our time training on that subject every single day, learning from people, applying it, practicing it. And
I think that's a big thing right there. Learning from different people, but also applying and practicing. You can't just sit and study and not take action and go to the next level. I feel like there are parts to it, and you have to just get out there. Like, you have to do it. If something's in you where you're like, oh, I wonder what that would be like, you might as well try it out and fully take the leap. And then if you don't like it after whatever amount of time that you feel, then you can stop thinking about it and know that, okay, that wasn't for me. But I think that's important.
And that's the only way to know, is like to try out different things. So when I was going to school at the University of South Florida, I thought in my mind, I'm going to teach middle schoolers, because high schoolers, they looked almost the same age as me, and I can't, I don't want to be in there. And I had all these thoughts in my mind of where I was going to teach. Well, guess what? All of that transformed as I did my internships in elementary and then middle school and high school. And then I came across the EBD Center, special education, and I was like, whoa, I fit in this like my hand fits into a glove. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to know who you are, what you're doing, or what you're about until you start to move in that direction. And as you start to move in that direction of following your inner calling, you're going to get more skillful at it, because I look at it like that's a skill. Learning how to tune into your own self. Ignore all of the noise on the outside. Tune into your own self and figure out, where's my next step? Okay, go there. It's a skill, and it becomes more clear over time. So our question for you before we get off here is, what is your next level? What is something inside of your soul that has been calling you to go to that next step, and you've been putting it off for some reason because you think that you have to take 40,000 courses or read 40 million books or get the approval of your colleagues around you? You don't need all of that. It's your own soul's calling. It knows more than anybody else knows.
Take that step. Yeah.
Please share in the comments if you feel vulnerable enough and courageous enough to share in the comments, what is your next level? And this could be like a little accountability for you, to where you type it in the comments and then it's there. We could hold you accountable virtually, and you could always go back to it and be like, you know what, I have to do that.
And with that, I don't know if we have a second, but with that big thing that you know you could go to the next level with, what is a first baby step that would actually help lead you there to start the breadcrumbs for you? Would that be taking a class? Would that be buying a book? Would that be going to the library? Whatever it may be, and write that with it too. So we hope this episode helped you, and we can't wait to hear all about those next level steps that you're going to be taking too. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.